Disclaimer. Everything I shared is my personal experience. It doesn't define every cabin crew. Everyone's ability to handle situation is different, and I have immense respect for all of them.
Hi, my name is Elora, and one of the most common questions I get is, why did I leave my job as a cabin crew? They see it as this glamorous, luxurious career, so how could she leave that behind and work in a panchayat? Well, I didn't choose to work in a panchayat. I took an exam and then I got selected and then I was offered this new role. Before I start with why I left, I would like to take you back to the beginning how I became a cabin crew. But if you would prefer to skip ahead to the reason why I made this change, then you can jump to this time in this video. Ever since I was a little girl, I dreamed of being a cabin crew, but my family was strongly against it. Straight after class 12, I wanted to go for the interview, but my parents didn't allow me. They wanted me to graduate first. So I decided to be patient. After graduating from the college I never wanted to, I saved up a little. With that, I went for the interview and I got selected in my first attempt. Despite my parents' resistance, the more they opposed it, the more determined I became. Like, I wanted to make my own choices. Eventually, I convinced them and they helped me out with the security money. And when I got called for the interview, it was my first flight of my life. After my training, I was sent to Bangalore, which was my base. I was waiting for my AAP to arrive, airport entry pass, which took a few days to arrive. Meanwhile, my colleagues from other bases like Hyderabad and Chennai, they already started flying, but we in Bangalore had to wait. Then finally our AAP arrived and we got our rosters. Our first flight was familiarization flight wherein we just observed. But even on those flights, I was sick and I kept vomiting. But I didn't think about it much. Then finally, I was scheduled to operate. According to my schedule, like I was supposed to fly to Mumbai, and from the very next day, we would start, the operation. But when I reached the airport, before we took off for Mumbai, I got a call that there's been a last minute changes and I need to operate two sectors as soon as I land in Mumbai. So it was an A321 aircraft, meaning which has over like 200 passengers. And you know what? Like out of 5 crews, 3 of us were brand new, just certified. The other 2 members had a really tough time. The service was delayed and the passengers were really frustrated. And I ended up getting a lot of scoldings. I operated 3 days from Mumbai, which were filled with scoldings. The flights were short, but the service was intense. Especially the passengers from Mumbai usually pre-book their corporate meals. And if they didn't get it fast, they would seriously come at me and be like, क्या मैडम इतना क्या टाइम लगता है? And some had very respectful gestures like, and also some be like, give me a tea. You need anything else, ma'am? No. I remember this passenger yelling at me like, if you cannot do the job, leave the job. So if you're watching this, I did leave the job respectfully. Thank you for your suggestion when I was brand new. Being new, my service was slow, so my other colleagues had to help me out a lot. It was frustrating for all of us. But thankfully, we didn't have any medical emergency on those flights. So after those exhausting flights, I flew back to Bangalore for a short break. At first, I didn't feel that emotional, but when I started talking with my roommate about my flight, I just broke down. I felt so lost I couldn't even recognize myself. Me and my roommate had known each other since training, but she saw me crying for the very first time. Even though I was determined to improve, which I did, the situation worsened. I realized that I just didn't feel good about this job. Most of my flights were at odd hours. Either I would be departing at 3 a.m. or be done by 3 a.m. Now understand this. If I have a departure at 3 a.m., I had to report at the airport 1 hour prior, that is at 2 a.m. Meaning my cab came to pick me up at 1 a.m. So I have to wake up at midnight 12 a.m. to get ready for the flight. And even if I woke up at 12 a.m. midnight for a 3 a.m. flight. We didn't get paid for this. And I understand that, it's okay. But the harder part was we didn't get even paid for the moment we reached at the airport. Our working hours were counted only from chalks off to chalks on. And the maximum working hours I did in my career was 90 hours, which was in my very first month. So I was selected for crew in December 2021, but I only joined in January 2022, right as the lockdown was easing. At that time, the economy was still struggling and airlines has cut down their employee salary. So even if I was doing long hours, like I said, I clocked like 90 hours in my first month, the pay I received was really disappointing. Had it not been COVID, I understand the pay would have been decent, but at that time, it was nowhere to what I deserve. People thought I made lakhs and lakhs of money, but as a fresh cabin crew member, the highest salary I received in my career was 60K at that month when I took like 0 leaves, long hours, and a lot of layovers. So my health was the real reason I quit. I kept vomiting in flights if I didn't have a proper meal. Now you would ask me, why the hell did you not have a proper meal? Now I would like to ask you, who the hell eats at midnight? And even if I did eat, working the whole night would give me a terrible acidity. The first sign was as soon as I stepped in an aircraft, the smell used to instantly make me nauseous. But I couldn't complain because if I called sick in the middle of the flight, it would have been a huge chaos and a huge safety lapse. Even I couldn't drink water in flight because it smelled like shit to me. Honestly, it was a good company water bottle, but it was my personal experience with all those smells going on during the flight. I used to have oranges when I felt thirsty. That was the best thing I could do. And I even avoided going to aircraft's toilet for hygiene concern. It's true that many crews get UTIs from that. My health kept getting worse and I developed insomnia. Once I didn't sleep for 3 days straight. Imagine if you cannot sleep at night, the next morning is just impossible. It was the day I was fully ready, makeup on at 3 a.m. I was waiting for my cab. I had an early morning departure at 5 a.m. And yeah, I did have a light breakfast. And then suddenly I vomited. I immediately took medicine, but it didn't help because I vomited again 2 times in a row. And then I knew that I was not okay. So I immediately called the base and informed them about the situation. They asked me to mail them and report in the base later. But I didn't went because I knew that they didn't call to check on me, but they wanted me to write an apology letter to the company for reporting last minute sickness. My roommate rushed me to the hospital. I got my IVs and then I felt better. But the base kept calling me to operate the flight next day. So I resigned that day. I served my notice period and once I returned home, I knew that I would never go back. And I started preparing for government exams. It was just 50% of what I went through, and of course, there were good moments as well. Thanks to my roommate who saved me from going to the mental hospital. Leaving the job was one of the hardest decisions, but it was the best thing I could do for myself, for my well-being. But if you ask me if I could go back and change anything, then I would choose not to because I don't regret anything. But if I get a chance to choose this career again today, then I would not do that. And to all the passengers, even if you had a bad day, this is a glimpse of what a cabin crew goes through. Thank you for listening, and I hope this helps you see a different light.